More American women are becoming mothers later in life than ever before, and the trend shows no signs of slowing down. But despite advancements in fertility treatments, attempting to conceive later in life can still be fraught with frustrations. So here to tell us the things your fertility doctor won't is MarketWatch reporter Elizabeth O'Brien. Elizabeth, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
It's so easy to see all of these actresses having full families in their 40s to think, oh, wow, it will be easy for me too. But that's just not basic biology.
That's the truth, and doctors, despite the advances in technology over the decades, can't change that. You know, women are really at their most fertile, doctors tell me, in their mid-20s. There's a subtle decline in the early 30s. Then it really starts to sharpen in the late 30s and early 40s. So yeah, as you said, the celebrities, they make it seem easy, but they have unlimited resources. And for most of us, it's really not. It's not easy. Absolutely.
And how important is the doctor you're seeing? Because time is of the essence here.
Absolutely. I've heard stories from former patients who say that they spent a long time with their OBGYN. And that makes sense. A lot of times when you're starting to conceive, you're under the care of an OBGYN. But because time is of the essence, you should proceed to a specialist. You shouldn't wait too long to proceed to a specialist. Women 35 and over should, within 6 months of trying, really go to a reproductive endocrinologist. That's a fertility doctor.
Is it true that your chances of conceiving go down as time goes on?
Exactly. There's no circumstance under which they rise, unfortunately. They're only going to decline as time goes on.
That's very, very scary, isn't it? All right, now how important is knowing how much all of this is going to cost? Because clearly the doctors aren't concerned about paying for it, but the patients need to be.
Exactly, and it is, the price tags are hefty and often they're not covered by insurance. Insurance coverage is inadequate at best for these treatments. An average cycle of IVF, in vitro fertilization, is $12,400. And oftentimes what I've heard from former patients is that doctors might not say up front, you know, they'll tell you the cost per cycle, but they won't say, you know what, you're probably going to need more than one. I mean, this just drains women's bank accounts, and they oftentimes might not have a great sense of that getting into it.
And there are these sort of guarantees, correct? If you don't conceive, you don't pay. How does that work?
Some clinics have what they call it's often called a shared risk program. So they'll give a package of 6 IVF cycles, and they'll say if after the 6 you don't conceive, you get a full refund. So that's good peace of mind for a lot of women, but in reality what people say is that there's a screening criteria to enter the program, and women, they often don't admit women who they think are going to need the full 6. They think you're going to get pregnant likely on the first or second try. So the financial risk is really more geared toward the patient in these scenarios. You know, and then, but for some people, they might offer peace of mind.
All right, absolutely. Now, of course, there are health risks to all of this, and doctors do have a handle on some of them, but not all of them.
Yes, one of the biggest health risks is the risk of multiples. Now, that has declined a little bit in recent years as twin births are declining, yet still there are nearly half of babies born through IVF, according to the most recent statistics, were multiples.
Right.
The risks to the baby for multiples are preterm birth and its associations such as cerebral palsy and even stillbirth. You know, when you have more than one, there are risks to the mother too, including prolonged bed rest, hypertension, and diabetes. So these are, and they do have a good handle on those risks, and some doctors are really working to limit the number of multiples.
Absolutely. And where you live is important, right? Because not all fertility clinics are created equal.
Yes, it's true, and not all states have different laws as well on the insurance coverage. So some states mandate that most insurance plans cover some level of fertility clinics. Others don't. Some states have very few specialists. So where you live does make a difference.
And also remember, if you're freezing your eggs, it's not an insurance policy, especially if you're freezing them at age 35 or later, correct?
And many women, by the time they get around to freezing their eggs for elective reasons, they haven't met the right partner, they're really chugging along in their career, they are in their late 30s by the time they reach that stage. And the reality is that egg quality declines. So that, you know, the best time to be freezing your eggs, if you're going to do it, is really in the late 20s, early 30s, before that egg quality diminishes. I've heard people use the term insurance policy a lot, but in reality, there are no guarantees, even with frozen eggs, especially in older women.
Absolutely. Elizabeth O'Brien, thank you so much for all that.